Hey everyone, welcome to Broken Lord Order. So I said on my off-topic Tuesdays from the previous week that I'd show you how to make the Wood Elves a little bit less frustrating to play as. So that's what we're going to do today. Going to take a look at a few mods that go a long way towards solving a lot of the issues with the Wood Elves. So kick back, grab a drink, and let's get into it.
Wow.
Alright, so first on the list is a mod I'm sure the overwhelming majority of you already have in your load orders, and that is Mixu's Legendary Lords. If you're unfamiliar with the mod for some reason, Mixu's Legendary Lords adds in a ton of Legendary Lords that were unfortunately missed. Um, but the one we're going to be focusing on today is the Wood Elf one that is included with it, which is Death. If you're unfamiliar with him, Death is the legendary blacksmith of the Wood Elves. He's actually the one who crafted the blade for Dirthu. Again, he's pretty famous. He actually is, spoiler alert, the living reincarnation of Vol in the end times, although he is unfortunately betrayed and killed by the Wood Elves. He's a really interesting character to play as, but we're going to need another thing to make him really pop, and that is the campaign supplement, also from Mixu. So what this campaign supplement does is for the Empire, actually, it adds in a bunch of regiments for Renown, but that's not what interests us here. What interests us here is that it adds in the Forge of Starlight for Death. So the Forge of Starlight is if you control Death's territory, either through confederating with him or by starting with him, you can craft legendary items, like unique items, through that forge. This actually adds in a really cool sort of touch to Death because, again, he is a blacksmith. That would be a focus of what he would do. But then rather than just adding in generic stuff, this has a lot of unique items into it and ones that can make a huge difference to your gameplay. So you might have seen a few of these in some of my previous videos, but for example, like there's ones that are meant exclusively for ranged lords. There's ones that are meant exclusively for certain playstyles. Like it's really cool how much depth there is to this seemingly small little tweak. But that goes a long way towards making Death actually feel like a feature complete third faction for the Wood Elves, which solves one of the issues that the Wood Elves have, which is a lack of faction selection and a lack of diversity in their faction. But maybe a blacksmith isn't your kind of cup of tea, or maybe you want something a little bit different. Well, thankfully, Mixu has your back yet again with the Legendary Lords 2-pack from him. And in this one, again, you've got a ton of different Legendary Lords added into the game, but the one we're going to be focusing on is Nyeth the Prophetess. So, as I said in my Wood Elves video, Nyeth the Prophetess is kind of an interesting character. She's the one who actually helped effectively create that Athol lore and corruption mechanic that you see. In reality, it's essentially that the forest itself is going to kill invaders. She essentially weaponized it. The other thing she does is predict the future. This one's slightly less lore accurate compared to Dieth, but she's still really cool. You've got a dual casting potential, right? She has access to both the lore of heavens and the lore of life, as I'm sure you saw. She also has a lot of bonuses to the mages of the Wood Elves, the spell singers, and then she also has some other unique things to make like high level units even more potent. But there's some trade-offs with her, which is kind of neat too. She's not quite as interesting to play as Dieth, if I'm being perfectly honest, but she ties in extremely well to the mod we're going to look at next. But even regardless of that fact, it's always nice to have more legendary lords available, and of course, this helps add in another one of those for you to play around with. So we'll finish off with one last Mixu mod, which is Mixu's Tabletop Lords. So his previous mods added in legendary lords and campaign effects. This one adds in generic lords and heroes. Adds it in for all the factions and whatnot, but of course we're going to be focusing on the Wood Elf specifically. This adds in the Shadow Dancer, which is an assassin-style hero. Again, you use them to take out high-value targets and flee before you really get into combat. And on the Lord side of things, this adds in the High Weaver, Dark Weaver, and Spell Weaver. So the Spell Weaver is a Lore of Beast caster who can also take a Lore of Heavens or Lore of Shadows. The Dark Weaver is a Dark Magic caster who can also take Fire or Death. And the High Weaver is a High Magic caster who can also take Light or Light Magic. All three of these have access to the same mounts, being the Elvenstein, Unicorn, and Great Eagle. They're not particularly good in combat, but that's again not the point of them. They are caster lords. This fleshes out one of the other issues that the Wood Elves have, which is a normal lack of lord options. This gives them more things to play around with and more playstyles available to them. Alright, so you got all these new legendary lords, and heroes, but you don't have any new units. So to solve that, we'll get Regiments of Renown Wood Elves by Decomposed, Hate Criminal, and Why So Furious. This does exactly what it says on the tin. You get 9 new Regiments of Renown. They are not recruited through the normal Regiments of Renown panel, and that's for compatibility, because otherwise it would have to edit start position. But you still have a global recruitment cap of one of each of these. We won't get into the specifics of all 9 of them, but they're extremely well done. They play unique, and of course, it adds in more toys for the Wood Elves, something that they're sorely lacking in. Alright, so we'll get into the real meat and potatoes of this whole video now and work on their campaign side of things. This being done through a single mod, that being Wood Elves Enhanced by Anna and Sorcerer Supreme. Full disclosure, straight up, this cannot solve all of the issues with the Wood Elves, but this goes quite a long ways towards making them significantly more fun to play as. So what this does, the big thing that it does, is change it so that major outposts can be upgraded to level 5, whereas minor ones can be upgraded to level 4. I'll tell you in advance, this does not conflict with tier 4 minor settlements in any way. And then for each of those, the major and minor settlements, they also get unique building chains for them now. There's a world route mechanic that effectively plays like a Wood Elfified geomantic web, which also ties in really well with Nyeth from earlier. Adds in 7 new techs into the tech tree, and there's a bunch of small tweaks here and there. Like I said, this does not solve every issue from the Wood Elves. Unfortunately, I think we're still going to have to wait on CA from that, but this takes the Wood Elves from being, just straight up unfun to play to actually being a pretty unique and fun faction to use. Alright, so taking a bit deeper dive now, we'll take a look at sort of the changes that this makes, but primarily we're going to focus on the settlements themselves. So as I said at the start, this lets you do the main settlements to tier 5, the minor settlements to tier 4. This makes a big difference right out of the gates. So instead of those pathetic little outposts you would normally have with the Wood Elves that can only build one thing and are virtually undefended, you now have proper minor settlements, right? You can add walls if you think you're going to need them. You can have multiple functions from that minor settlement. This makes the Wood Elves already significantly less frustrating to play as. And then on the major settlement side of things, this adds in a bunch of new buildings, right? So you've got 4 mutually exclusive temples that do different things. You've got a dragon roost that gives you 2 forest dragons on the garrison. A bunch of things that tweak the economies. But the two big ones to me are the Amber Building chain and the World Roots chain. So we'll start with the World Root one because I think it's a little bit easier to explain. The World Root, like I said, it effectively acts like the geomantic web, so it improves all your commandments for the province. Obviously, you still have the same style of commandments as the Wood Elves do, but this can ramp them up rather significantly and make your provinces surprisingly powerful. Just like the geomantic web one, this does require you to sort of take over chunks of territory, so you can't just spread out willy-nilly. You do have to think a bit more, and I feel like that's super lore appropriate with the Wood Elves, and I'm really happy with how this was implemented. The other thing this does is add in an Amber building chain, which is important because one of the things that this mod does is make you spend Amber to upgrade your settlements to tier 4s and tier 5s. So by using this Amber building chain, you can offset that, or frankly, you can just out and out earn Amber, which is a very significant change concerning how hamstrung the Wood Elves are by Amber normally. This makes them quite a bit more easy to play as. Doesn't make them overpowered by any stretch of the imagination. It kind of just removes that ridiculous handicap that they had in the base game. One last honorable mention before we wrap this video up, and that's going to be Project Resurrection Part Legendary Lords. This is created by Moon, Hate Criminal, and Part themselves. This adds in a bunch of legendary lords for other factions. I only put this in as an honorable mention for this one though because they are actively trying to get the Sisters of Twilight in for the Wood Elves. Not available just yet, still being worked on, but this is one I am super excited to see what comes of it in the future, because if they get those Sisters of Twilight in, this will be, again, one of those mods that you absolutely need for your Wood Elves playthroughs. But we'll see how that works out in the future. In the meantime, it's great for everything else they have in there, but that's why it wasn't in the list earlier. So put all together, these might not solve every issue that the Wood Elves have, but they go pretty far towards solving a lot of them, right? Unfortunately, you're still going to be stuck in Athalora, and that's not really the mod author's faults. It's just the way that CA has them implemented at the moment. But even despite that, this makes the Wood Elves substantially more fun to play as. I'll have a compilation pack down in the description if you want. You can just click it, subscribe to all, none of them conflict, and you'll be off to the races. If you do want individual links, they will also be down in the mod description, as well as a link to Parte's Legendary Lords, which I did keep out of the compilation just because, like I said, it's not Wood Elf specific at the moment. But with that, we're going to wrap up this video. For the next video, I'm thinking about taking a look at another Mixu mod, so stay tuned for that one. And as always, thank you for watching.